Hello! In this video I will talk to you about this big TinyWhoop. It's a very big one. It's the biggest I was able to build. I built it with the very latest component available. I mean a F4 flight controller, for instance, the latest motor, the strongest motor in this size. And I tried also to put a better camera than what we found usually on TinyWhoop. So here it is compared to a standard size 65 millimeter whoop, for instance. So you see it's quite big. So I will detail the exact part I used to build it, show you step by step how to build this quadcopter, and I will finish with some FPV footage. So for those interested by the footage, you can jump directly at the end of the video. So let's start. So let's quickly review all the parts that we will use to build this quadcopter. So the frame I will use is this one from Beta FPV. It's 85 millimeter frame. So it's the biggest possible TinyWhoop. To go with it, I chosen the biggest, strongest possible motors that can fit in this kind of whoops. These are the Dark Insane motors or Dark Edition, I'm not sure, from Micromotor Warehouse. These are the 18,000 kV motors with 8.5 millimeter diameter. So one of the strongest brushed motor possible. Of course, a set of propellers that I did buy from Beta FPV at the same time as the frame. Next will come the famous flight controller that comes in this kind of little box with a screw and number. So here it is. This is an F4 chip on a brushed flight controller. I will talk a little bit more about it later. I will show you also this receiver, because the flight controller comes with no receiver, so we have to provide an S-Bus one. So I used this XM receiver from FrSky. Also I will use this canopy as a camera mount. It's from King Kong. For the camera, I will use this FXT T81 Venus camera. It's a very nice camera. It implements OSD that we will need. What else? And it's a higher grade camera than what we see usually on most TinyWhoop, especially the small ones. So as it is a bigger TinyWhoop, I wanted to put a better camera on it. So here it is. And it weighs a little bit more than 4 grams. And for the VTX, I will use the Runcam Nano. Because I like this kind of transmitter. It's able of transmitting at 200 milliwatt of power if required, and it's also quite lightweight. So I will start by talking a little bit more about the flight controller, the F4. So basically, here it is. This flight controller comes with no receiver, so I have to solder an S-Bus one. And also you should know that this comes without any OSD, so there's no Betaflight OSD possible with it. I think I will use, that's why I will use a camera that has OSD in it.
to be able to see the remaining voltage of my battery directly on the screen. So the first thing I will start to do is to link it with to add a receiver to it. So basically, let's discuss about the XM receiver. This receiver can come with two kinds of firmware already installed in it. Either it's a Europe firmware or either it's a US firmware. And in my case, I don't know. I'm not for sure what kind of transmitter I have. So the first thing I will do is try to bind it with my Taranis. So to start with, I will solder 3 teeny piece of wire to the transmitter to be able to power it and to check if I can bind it with my Taranis. Okay, so now soldering of the receiver is done. So now I'm gonna add a small connector like this one to be able to power from USB with this cable I've got to check if I can bind with my Taranis. So I take my Taranis, I configure a new profile, setting up the D16 protocol, and I put it in bind mode. And now, okay, so now I will try to put the receiver in bind mode too, so I have to press a small button while powering it on. So let's do it. It's not always easy. Okay. And the LED stays solid, which means that it doesn't bind. So I have the wrong firmware. I have the Europe firmware in my Taranis, so I will have to switch. So to update the firmware in the XM receiver, we will have to use the extension bay of the Taranis. So first I remove my module, which I've got here, and we will use those pins to connect to the receiver and to be able to flash a new firmware inside of it. Then you will have to put the updated firmware inside the SD card of your Taranis. So I will give you the link to the FrSky website where you can find the firmware, and you have to put it in the firmware directory already present in your SD card and put it back in the Taranis like that. And then connect the receiver to the pin. So there is 5 pins. So from top to bottom, the 2 first will be unused. Then we have the positive, the ground, and the last at the very bottom we have the serial data. Now let's power on the Taranis. Then we will want to do, in fact, a long press on menu, then page, and we will go down to the firmware directory. And we will choose the correct firmware. So in my case, it's LBT1. LBT is the Europe one. I select it and it starts writing to the firmware. So we have to wait for the flash to complete. I did not accelerate the video for the flashing because I wanted you to see the exact time that it's supposed to take. So now we power off the Taranis and we will try to bind to see if this time it works. So I power on the Taranis and I will go to the menu and put in bind mode. So okay, so bind is activated and now I'm gonna power up my receiver while pressing on the button. This time the LED is no more solid, but it is blinking, so it means the bind is successful, so I'm very happy. I will now power off everything, repower on, and check that when I power on my Taranis, the LED turns green, which means that we have connectivity and everything is okay. So at this point, we have successfully bound the receiver to the remote controller, to the Taranis. Now, the next thing we will do is to invert the S-Bus signal from the RX. Why do we need that? Because the RX sends an inverted S-Bus signal. This is not a problem with a F3 or even F1 flight controller because these chips come with built-in inverter. So they don't care about the inverted signal from the XM receiver from FrSky. But the F4 doesn't come with built-in an inverter. So they must receive an uninverted S-Bus signal. So to do that, we will have to modify the XM receiver for him to provide an uninverted S-Bus signal. There are many ways to modify this RX. The way I've chosen here is the way I prefer, is to remove this little chip here, and then we'll have to connect the two connectors. So first we are gonna cut this little chip here to just remove it.
Now, the final step in modifying this receiver is to solder together two pins from the chip we just removed. So for this, I'm gonna solder a teeny bit of wire, and it should look at the final like this. So here you can see the two pins that must be connected together. So here I just soldered the RX to the FC. So it's just a basic wiring here, ground on ground, 3.3 volt on the plus VCC, and the S-bus port of the RX to the pad labeled RX on the flight controller. So very simple here. So now that it is soldered to the FC and we have bound the RX to the Taranis, we are gonna power up the Taranis and connect it to the computer to see what it looks like under Betaflight. So let's connect to Betaflight. USB plugged, okay, connecting. So let's see what it looks like, the configuration on the stock up-on receiver. Okay, so just have a quick look. Oh, strange numbers in the PWM frequency. 16 kHz. Okay, so the configuration seems okay, or quite okay. Stock, okay. Well, having a look at the configuration out of the box. Receiver is working. Checking that when I move the sticks, it moves on screen. Yes, it's moving. Further okay. Roll pitch, yo. Okay, so our RX and inline version on the RX is working well. So this is a good news. We have also basic modes. Okay, by default there's only one arm switch, adjustment, servo, motors. Oh, let's see which version of Betaflight it comes with. If I remember well, it's 3.2. Yes, it's 3.2, and the target name is INWOOP F4. So now we are going to flash the firmware to the latest. At the moment I'm recording this video, this is Alien Betaflight 3.3. So we have to put full chip erase here, reload the firmware, and we are gonna flash it. So we can see on the upper top of the screen it goes on DFU mode, which is normal. This is the way this flight controller is working with Betaflight for flashing. So we need the full chip erase to work. Okay, now it's flashing. This is the true time it takes. Okay, so the programming is successful. Now I'm gonna unplug and replug the USB and connect to make the configuration. Okay, so we are checking the version now. Okay, so it's 3.3. So I'm happy. I have the latest Betaflight. Now let's disconnect and reconnect. Okay, so ports are still okay, they are the same, they have the same number, so for the moment I will leave everything like that. Seems to be the default. Oops, we have to put back S-bus here. The receiver don't work. That's normal because it's a S-bus and it's not configured correctly, so we put S-bus here. Save and reboot. Reconnecting.
Checking the receiver. Oh, the receiver seems okay. Okay, it works. Great. So now I'm gonna just quickly have a quick look. Oh, we have SSI on channel 12, even if we don't have OSD to have it back. But at least we have telemetry on the remote controller. I will put back the default PID and parameters to stock values for the moment. Don't forget to save. Face safe, I will let like that for the moment. Configuration, what do we have to change? Nothing. Mod, so now I'm gonna set up my own mod. For this, I will speed quickly because each one has his preferred ways of configuring the mod. Don't forget to save. I'm gonna also disable the permanent air mode because I want to be able to switch it, and I also enable telemetry. I want to switch it by myself. Anti-gravity, I don't want it. And I will add the dynamic filter from the latest beta flight. So now I'm able to configure my air mode. Now that I disabled the permanent mode. Okay, I'm saving. And we are almost good to go. One last thing, just put a name on it. Even if I don't have OSD to see it. Let's check. This seems all good. So I'm gonna save my latest change. So now we are ready to get back to our build and to mount the flight controller into the frame with the motors. So the flight controller will be installed this way with the USB, which is the back, inside the bigger spaces in which you can put it. So in this way, and after that we are gonna put a motor with a black and white wires into this one, which is the upper right, when you are facing the wall. So now the first motor is in. We are gonna put the same motor with the black and white wire just at the opposite. And next we will put the two remaining motors in the two remaining sockets. So now I'm gonna place the flight controller into the frame. For this I'm gonna use screws and rubber rings. I'm gonna use only one of the provided rubber ring in the back fixation, and the three other I will use some rubber ring I got from another flight controller from Ichin B-Core, because these rubber ring are taller and they allow to mount the camera a little bit higher, which is good because we have the receiver here that will take place. Or take room between the flight controller and the camera. So now I'm gonna firmly put the flight controller into the frame and screw it. Put the screw on it, and I will also plug the motors to the flight controller. So now we reach the point where we can install the propellers. So let's do that. Next step now is to fix the receiver, which must be fixed to the flight controller. So for this, I will use some liquid tape, but you can use glue also if you prefer, but I prefer using it. So for this, I'm using two speakers to apply it on the receiver. So I take just a little bit. I apply just like that. And I place it just on the big chip, the F4 chip, and I'm putting some weight on it for it to dry. And we're good to wait a little bit. Now, 2 hours later, everything is dry, and we can have a look at the result. And the fixation is okay. So you can see what it looks like. Now we are ready to do the very first flight test, because we are only missing the camera, but for this we have to go back to Betaflight, because I discovered that with Betaflight 3.3 we need to lower the frequency to 8 kHz for the moment. It's supposed to work at 32 kHz with the Betaflight 3.2, but it seems that we can't anymore, or probably there's a bug in 3.3. So I have to decrease the frequency to make it work. So I'm gonna install quickly a battery and see if it flies. First test flight is okay, so now we are gonna focus on the camera and VTX. Now we are gonna focus on the canopy and making the camera fit into it. So for this we will have to cut the corner of the hole for the camera lens to enlarge it a little bit, because we can see a little bit of the canopy when placing the camera. So I suggest you place the camera and test just by placing it to see if you see the canopy, but you will have to cut just a little bit on each corner to make the hole look square, to have a perfect picture in your goggles. So in the end, you should be able to place the camera without fixing it, but just placing it inside the canopy, powering it up, and checking that you have a clear image and you don't see the edge of the canopy, like that.
now I will take care of the connection between the VTX and the camera, and I will also take care of putting a connector for the the OSD joystick. So I will remove this connector because I cannot plug my transmitter and the joystick at the same time. So I will start by removing it totally. So let's do that. So now I removed all the plastic connector, and I will now try to remove the little brush that is still inside the soldering point. So now I'm ready to solder my VTX and my OSD connector to the camera. So I cut this little connector here that I will reuse. I first try to connect the ground because it's the most difficult, because there is two wires to connect on it, one from the OSD connector and the one from the camera. The other wire are only one wire for one pad soldering. So now soldering is done. I'm gonna plug in the joystick to at the same time test that my camera is working, and that I will take the opportunity to make the configuration of the camera and show you also how the OSD looks like. So I'm plugging in the joystick that was provided with the camera into the little connectors that I just soldered to the correct pin of the camera. So now I'm preparing to plug a LiPo onto the connector. I'm showing you the feed that is received by my DVR, by my receiver, when I plug the battery. Okay. I'm gonna browse the navigation menu, and what I want to change is the type of the picture. I want NTSC, so here it is. I'm switching from PAL to NTSC. Also, you can change the scale. I'm looking into the menu to let you have a look at the option. For the moment, I will keep everything as a default, as it seems okay. The PAL NTSC was the only one I wanted to update. Okay, so now I'm gonna save and exit to keep my changes. Okay, switching to save. Looks like the save is okay. So now we are gonna proceed with fixing the camera into the canopy. So I can unplug the LiPo right now. We do not need it anymore. So now that I'm happy with the configuration and that I have tested that my soldering are okay and everything is working fine, I'm gonna use this electrical tape, liquid tape, to put on the soldering that I've just done to secure them and to make them stronger. So I'm gonna apply just a little bit, just where I did the soldering here. Okay, so now we need to wait for it to dry. Now the next step will be to fix the camera inside the canopy. So we're gonna place it just like that. I'm placing a small rubber elastic just to keep the camera in place temporarily, to allow me to put again some liquid tape to fix the camera. So I just put a little bit everywhere the camera touch the canopy to make it fix, and I put especially a lot around the lens where the canopy touches the camera. So now I'm happy, my camera is inside the canopy. I removed the rubber elastic, and now I'm gonna fix the VTX, and I feel like I'm gonna cut a little bit the canopy because the canopy, the VTX, does not go very well with the RX. So I'm cutting a little bit of the canopy, 1 millimeter approximately, to better put the VTX inside it. Okay, so now I'm happy with the placement of the VTX. So I'm gonna use the liquid tape again to fix it. So the same technique, I put an elastic around it, and I'm gonna put the first batch of liquid tape on it to fix it. So at first I only put just a little bit of liquid tape to do the first fixation and allow me to remove the elastic. So now I'm removing the elastic. The VTX is just a little bit fixed, but not completely. And I'm gonna proceed with the final fixation of the VTX. Okay, So now we need to wait it to dry. So now at this point I just did the soldering of the two wires for the VTX to the power pad on my flight controller. I mean the pad where the battery is connected to provide some power to my VTX and camera. So now I'm just putting the two final screws, and this is okay. Oh, the very last thing, some rubber to keep my motor wire in place, and that will be perfect. So here is the final result. We are just above 45 grams without battery, and with this battery that I intend to use, it's almost 60 grams. And this is the end. Now let's see how this little beast can fly.